Hello there, it's Jay here from Jay's Vintage Junk. There's a big pile of old computers behind me. Basically what I've got here, I've been round my various cupboards and storage spaces and what have you, and dug out all the junk. This is all computers which really they're heading to the local recycling centre. It's all stuff that it's not worth repairing, it's incomplete. It's basically e-waste computer junk. But what I thought we'd do in this video is, before I send all this, well, throw it in the back of the car and take it to the local recycling centre, I thought we'd go through it and basically pull out anything that's worth keeping for either repairing, you know, more modern computers, or anything that I might consider could be handy for fixing a vintage computer or anything. I've got the monitor set up here with a VGA cable, and I've got a ATX power supply here and a PS2 keyboard. So, I mean, some of these I don't even think have motherboards in them. Most have. We might see if we can get some of the boards to power up. It'd be interesting to know what works and what doesn't, actually, because some of these I haven't touched in years. Some have got a story behind them, some haven't. So what I'll do is I'll reset the camera up and we'll pull one out one by one, and we'll see what we can salvage off them, and then we can throw the rest into a scrap pile. Like I say, I can send them off. Well, take them for e-waste from then. So I'll set the camera back up and we'll get started. Right, I think that's us all pretty set up. I've actually brought the monitor down here, so we do get a board to power up. At least we can see if there's something comes on screen. We'll start with this. Now, this was another thing that Andy gave me ages ago, and I think this come off Mick's scrap truckers, same as that IBM. And what we've got here, this is, I'm actually sure what make it is. I think it's a Dell. It's an old blade server. It's an old Xeon based blade server. That's nothing to do with it. Shove that in that drawer there. I did actually manage to get this thing had been smashed with a hammer. That's why I don't have the top cover off it. Wherever this had been decommissioned from, they literally took a hammer to it and smashed the hard drive in it, actually, with a hammer, which was a shame really, because it was a 2 terabyte hard drive. I did actually get this thing powered up and working, and I was going to build a top cover for it, because obviously these things need forced airflow to keep them cool. They don't like running with their top off. And then, as far as I remember, it just died, and I couldn't get it to do. Anything after that. I pulled the power supply out of it. I think I used the power supply. Actually, the power supply might be up there for it. I believe the power supply was absolutely fine. It's just in my spare power supplies box. But I've no real use for this thing, so I thought I'd better just strip it down for what I can use out of it. It's got some nice fans and things like that in it. Obviously, I'll keep the main board. It's got a Xeon in there, which I think probably still works okay. But it's the other things this motherboard's handy to keep for. There's loads of little bits like these heat sinks, ATX power connector there. Possibly even some of the capacitors on it, if we want to do a recap on one of the other boards rather than buying new. This should be perfectly serviceable on this board, so we might be able to pinch some of the capacitors and things like that off it. So it's worth keeping bits like that. So we'll get this stripped down. We might try and get it to power up. I'm not 100% sure whether that's going to be viable. I even keep things like these connecting wires, because they're handy. You can reuse the connectors off them. If you need some thin hook-up cable, you can strip them down, so it's always handy to keep. I have a basket I just throw bits of wire like that in, so we'll take all the stuff like that off. There's another connector down here. which I can't seem to get off. Let's try taking that off the other way. Of course, the other thing you get is loads of PC screws when you do this, so I should be able to restock my big tub of PC screws. Don't think this one's going to be a particularly interesting one of all the systems I've got here, but we'll get this one stripped down first and then we'll move on to there's another Dell there. Actually, a lot of these systems are Dells because I did quite like using Dell systems. In fact, my main computer's still upstairs, my Xeon that I do all my like video editing and stuff like that on. That's a Dell. Right, now we need to get that. We have to squeeze them in because this is actually quite a useful connector. It's the small spacing which you don't see very often. You know, like the compressed. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head now, but that can go in my scrap box. Loads of useful USB sockets we can salvage off it. The VGA there, if we needed it, we could salvage off it probably. Again, these connectors and things like that. Tack switch there. Loads of useful parts that are worth keeping because it's only a small board. Like I say, I have a big box. Any boards like that I take off anything just get thrown in that box, and then, like I said, if I need like a USB connector for something or a tack switch to replace something, I know I've got something I can salvage it off. So we'll keep that. We'll try and get this cable out because this cable is quite nice, and I don't. In fact, I might actually have a use for it. So we can get it to. There we go. You have to push the ends in. There we go. So we'll have that out. I don't want to release that. Fortunately, when you strap in like this, let's see if these will do it. These are a bit wimpy, but you don't have to be too precious. Like I said, I'm not precious about the computer, it's scrap, so we can just bend them tabs up and get that out. That's worth keeping. So that'll go in my scrap leads box. I'd quite like to get these fans out as well, because these nice high powered fans are always useful. And we'll see if we can get the main board out of it. It doesn't seem to have anything holding it on the back, so it should just be the screws here to hold it in. There are a lot of screws as well. I'm sure if you don't want to see through all this, just put me on double speed while I'm going through this, and then slow me down when it looks like I'm doing something you're interested in. Right, I think this is the last screw on this, and we can probably lift this main board out. Looks like I've already salvaged the RAM off this. Does that go right through? Yes, it does. So we'll have to take that heatsink off, because it's actually fixed down to the bottom of the chassis, not just the main board. And they've got a Xeon CPU in there, which I have a few spare Xeon CPUs anyway, so it might get you, might have a use for it somewhere. The trouble is I don't have that many boards that will take a Xeon CPU. I could probably hack it to work on a different board. I've done that in the past. Right. There we go. So that's the main board we've got. That's probably worth keeping as it is. Like I said, there's quite a few useful bits on that really. What are these capacitors? They're only 680 UF, but they're 820, those ones. And they're all through-hole capacitors, so like I said, the capacitors on that could be useful. Again, there's all these connectors which can be reused, the ATX connector there. There's lots of handy, useful parts on that board, so like I said, it's worth keeping just for a stripper board. I'll put that to one side. We can get this junk out of the way, because that can then go for scrap. Put that out of the way. Let's have a look at this one. Now this one, this was an old control center PC from a television studio that I was working in once. These were there was a independent TV channel in Manchester many years ago called Channel M, and these were part of the original Channel M studio gear that all got scrapped, and I ended up with some of them. The problem with them was, as we found out, they were all suffering with capacitor failure. If you actually look at this one, it's quite horrific what I actually did here. I did actually have this computer up and running, but as you can see there, I've actually bodged in a capacitor there to replace one that had blown. We might actually stand a chance of getting that board to possibly fire up actually. It would need it. If we decide to do anything with that board, obviously it would need repairing properly, but let us zoom you out. It's missing its power supply, so I've obviously reused that for another purpose in the past. But we do have IDE, we do have floppy on it. Is that PCI Express? We've got one standard PCI, and I think that's either AGP or PCI Express. It's probably AGP with the age of this. Can't actually tell off the top of my head. Right, let's strip this down. I would actually keep this computer together if I had a power supply for it, but actually unfortunately it is missing its power supply, and it is a non-standard power supply. In fact, I think, if I remember correctly, I pinched the power supply out of this one to keep another one of these systems we had at work going. I'll pull the main board out of it. See if there's no screws in there. Got a massive cooler arrangement on the top there. I can't see anything else that's actually holding that board in. There's nothing holding it in. So why wouldn't it come out before? Right. There we go. We've got a Dell mainboard there. It looks like I did change quite a few capacitors on it in the past actually. And that's been chopped about. But I can see some solder work there where I've obviously changed capacitors in the past. Right, we'll take that out. We might see if we can get that to power up. I think that's a standard ATX supply. What else is worth keeping in here? Probably not a huge amount. There's some panels and switches on the front. But is it worth all the effort to pull them off it for just a couple of switches and that there? I think that can go to e-waste as it is. We'll keep the main board though. In fact, let's have a look at this main board and see if we can do anything with it, because this is a reasonable Pentium 4 main board. We do have parallel serial VGA. We've got all the things we want on it really. Obviously, if we do a better repair than that there, like I said, that's just been done. Obviously, I wanted to get it working at some point quickly, and I did a bodge on it there. Because at one point these really were just like scrap computers, you know. We had loads of these at work, and they got used for all sorts. Just we just needed a random computer for something, you know. You'd use one of these old things, and as they died, I'd cannibalise one and get what, you know, keep a few working and keep doing that over and over and over again. Right, so that fits. In fact, I've just thought I am going to need that front panel, aren't I? Or else I'm not going to figure out how to switch this thing on. In fact, just bear with me a second and I'll see if I can extract that front panel from the case, and we'll be right back and we'll see if this board will do anything. So, back in a sec. Right, we're back, and as you can see I've got it all connected up. We've got the power switch and everything I managed to extract out of the case. I did wound myself a little bit doing it, but I suppose if we're going to perhaps do anything in the future with this board, we do really need these, at least for the time being, until we can figure out other ways of doing it. Obviously, you know, we can do something else for that switch or something. I'll plug it in and we'll see if we've got any signs of life. 'Cause, I mean, I might have decided to pull the power supply from this thing for... Well, we've got some signs of life. In fact, that's trying to switch on, I think. So I'm going to shut it off. I haven't even connected VGA or a keyboard or anything up to it. Right, that's powered off, so that's a good sign. We'll connect it up to the monitor. In fact, let me get you up a little bit, like that. Oops. We'll connect the keyboard up. No, we won't connect the keyboard up because this doesn't have PS2 on it, unfortunately. Have I got a USB? I don't even think I've got a USB keyboard down here. And I'm not about to go hunting about upstairs for one, but we'll see if it'll fire up and we'll get anything on the screen. At least then I can bag it away of what it is, and can look at it in the future. And I would have expected this with it being a Pentium 4, and it's still got floppy on it, it's got IDE on it and everything, to have PS2 ports on it, but no, it doesn't. Let's power it up and we'll see if we get anything to come up on the screen. There we go. It does look a little bit glitchy. I can see some glitchiness in the video display there. I don't know if you can make it out, but there's like a shimmer in some of the lettering, so I'm wondering if the graphics side of that is possibly not in perfect condition. And we don't seem to be going any further than that. It seems to be just sitting at that. But I will put that away, you know, for future perusals. I won't just scrap that board straight away. That might have some future use, especially considering that it's got IDE and floppy on it, and it's got parallel serial, standard VGA output, onboard sound. Like I said, it's something we can possibly do something with in the future, and it is a, you know, Pentium 4 platform. So really, personally, I consider like anything after Pentium 4 isn't really vintage, and Pentium 4 is really borderline on what I consider kind of vintagey. I do keep like Pentium 4 stuff about a bit because it's handy for, you know, like bridge PCs, stuff like that. I'm not into that era of retro gaming where, you know, Pentium 4, you know, all the stuff that I'm interested in is really before then. So, you know, I will keep this about and we'll play with it in the future. Like I said, I won't just scrap it immediately, but that's as far as I'll go with this one for now. In fact, what I'll do is I'll pause the video. Because this does kind of work a bit, I'll stick it away in a static bag, anti-static bag, label it up, and it can go in one of my boxes for look at in the future as well. Like that other scrap Dell one there can just go in my scrap motherboards bin. So I'll back in a sec. Right, let's get the last of the Dells out of the way. Now, again, this is unfortunately pretty much scrap, I think. This belonged to someone I used to do computer repairs for. It was a little secretarial business, and it was to be honest, the business is pretty much folded now. It was getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and they didn't want to spend a lot of money. This computer failed, and I literally just went into my attic and found something comparable, pulled the hard drive out of this, put it in that, configured it, and just gave her that computer and says, you know, there you go. This thing has got a mainboard fault on it, and basically there's a short somewhere on the mainboard, and it won't power up. You can get the power supply to fire up on its own, so the power supply is fine, but you plug it into the mainboard and it's dead. I can't remember, I did check it on it, I think it's like on the 3.3 volt rail or something on the actual mainboard that's dead on this. So it's like I say, it's not really worth fixing. But I can see some nice through-hole capacitors which we can probably reuse on that board. It's a bit of a shame really, because it has got serial parallel and everything on it. It's a really nice small form factor as well. And it does even have provision, I think, for a floppy disk drive. Being that this is a Core 2 Duo, so this is a slightly later system, but with a fault like that on the main board, it's not worth pursuing. These things are 10 a penny. You know, you can get these for virtually nothing. It is literally e-waste. But there are some really handy, useful bits in this we can salvage. Like I said, that main board has got some nice capacitors on it, which would possibly repair the other Dell board that I've got. All I've got to do is figure out how to get this damn thing apart, because I don't want to spend too much time on these. It's actually quite time consuming stripping all these systems down, but I don't like wasting good parts, which, you know, I'd have to go online and buy if I need them, when I've got scrap that really needs to, like I said, it needs to be got rid of, but does still contain some really useful parts. How does that release now? Ah, there we go. And then we've got a serial ATA DVD writer there, like ultra slimline laptop style one. I've actually got a box full of them, but I'm sure yeah, May 2009, so you get an idea. I mean, it's still an old computer. This is still considered junk, but there are some handy, like I said, there are some handy bits we can salvage from it. And again, we've got that issue with the front panel. Connections, because I know, one fortunate thing is because I know that this is no good. Like I said, I'm not that as precious about taking it apart as that other one, which I said we might have a chance of doing something with the. Don't really think that's worth keeping because it's integrated into the. Oh, I don't know. Nice little fan. And get rid of all this plastic. You can get that power supply out. I mean, I'm sure that power supply, because I know that does work, has got its own, you know, possibly resale value on eBay. Otherwise, it's just a useful power supply with lots of useful voltages on it, and it's got the micro ATX type connector, which I've seen in, you know, some of the later Dell stuff like this, seems to use them power connectors. But again, that can go in my spares power supply box. That's useful to keep for just for as a power supply, even if I don't use it to repair something like this. Right, let's get the main board out of it. There's the heatsink. Dear me, that's got some weight in it. There's the passively cooled heatsink. You can tell this thing's had quite a bit of use over time with the amount of dust. Oh, that stinks as well. Air fresheners. The CPU in this I don't think was anything special. Like I said, I don't think that's really of any interest to us, but I wouldn't mind keeping that panel there with all the USBs and stuff on it. That might be quite handy. Just to salvage USBs and things like that from. In fact, even things like that blank is worth keeping. Interesting, what I don't see on this main board is a floppy header, even though it's got a 3.5 inch slot there. I don't actually see a floppy header on the board. I think we're nearly there. Got lots and lots of screws we've managed to salvage. Are we free? No, there's something else holding that yet. Where have I missed a screw? Ah, there's one at the back there. I don't think that was it. There's another screw there. Get them out. And then you look, there's still something on this side of the board that's holding it. I can't see what it is. You have to slide it. It doesn't slide. They don't seem to be screwed on. That should push right through. So what on earth? Oh, there's a screw there I've missed. We'll get that out. Right. And again, we're being held by this little USB board here, which you'd expect to just pop out, but there's something holding. Do I have to get this fan out of the way first? I'm going to have the same fun that I had with the other one, where you have to strip the whole damn thing down just to get... you can get the idea of... Yeah, that's grim. But that still hasn't helped us get that main board out. It's lifting up. Are we nearly out? There we go. Right, lovely. Let's switch out if we can. Have they got that fixed in there? You'd think it would just slide to one side and pop out. I'm sure that's what it's meant to do. There we go, just a bit stiff. Right, so once again we can keep that. That can go. We've got loads of useful capacitors on there. Again, we've got various things we can use off the back there. The audio connector there. In fact, I need one of those for another motherboard that I've got. The left hand channel's not working on the back connector there, so I can use that straight away. Got quite a few capacitors on there that might come in to recap that other board. So again, definitely worth keeping just for that. So that can go in the same place as that other Dell board that'll go in my scrap motherboard box. Let's just see if we can quickly get these last few bits of electronics out of here. And then the rest of this can, like I said, can go for scrap. There is a nice fan in here. It's filthy dirty. It'll need a good clean, but it is quite a nice sized fan. If I can extract it without too much hassle. One of the problems is the smell. It's this. It's what people put in like fabric softeners and stuff. And these computers do tend to suck it in, and it gets, you can see it there, here, this. And the smell of it, I don't find very pleasant at all. In fact, it knocks me sick. So I'm trying my best not to disturb. There we go. And then can we find, there we are, that's it. Right, we've got everything out electronics from that now. Obviously this will need a good clean, but 12 volt DC fans like that, always useful. It'll just need a good clean up. But again, we've got the audio jacks, we've got the USB ports, and those mount on the opposite way. Always handy to have, you know, a good selection of them because they get broken. And I always, like I say, I have a box that I just throw everything like that in, and then if I need a USB port like that, I know I've got scrap, I can basically just take it off to reuse. So all that lot can go on the pile. And that can go in the bin. Got all the screws out of it. Yep. So that's another one for the recycling. Right, what shall we have next? Let's pull. Yeah. Ooh. We've got an E-machines here. Now this again is probably about 2004-ish, something around that kind of time. Have we got a date on it? It was designed for Windows Vista, so that kind of dates it, you know, just a little bit after XP. What have we got? It's pretty well already stripped out, this, I think. I've had the power supply out of it. I'm not actually sure whether the main board in this, indeed if it has one, works. If it was a slightly earlier case, I would actually keep the case because it's not bad. The problem with this is you've no provision for a 3.5-inch floppy drive. It's just got the media slots there. It's got these horrible pushing things where you put a CD drive behind it and it kind of ejects out. It was all a thing of an age, really. I'm not actually 100% sure where this one came from. I think it's something I upgraded for a friend and I ended up with the what was left of it. And unfortunately, even the main board, we've got USB on it. Well, we do fortunately have a keyboard, PS2 keyboard and mouse, but we've got no serial or parallel or anything on it. Although we might, if we're lucky, have them on headers on the actual main board, so that's one reason why I want to have a quick look at this. I'll get the side off it. Let's have a see what we've got inside it. So, we've got a Serial 8A hard drive there. We do actually have some drive bays, so it's a shame, really, that it's got that plastic front on it. It didn't have that plastic front on it. It had a more, you know, an older style front on it. This case wouldn't be, you know, we could perhaps do something with it. We've got ID cable, which is always handy. We've got a PCI modem, that can go in the bin, because that's absolutely useless. We've got some cabling which we can reuse in this case, actually, so all these are handy to take out for reuse. Pull that hard drive out, see what it is. We've got a hard drive cage out anyway. SATA cable, again, something that is handy. I'm curious to see what this hard drive is. So we've got a Western Digital, oh, it's a Caviar, Western Digital Caviar. What's the size of it? An 80 gig. So we've got an 80 gig Western Digital Caviar hard drive there. So I mean, like I said, it's not huge, but it's it'll be okay for, you know, a bridge PC or something like that. Anything you don't need a massive hard drive for. I'm sure it'll work well enough, so I'll stick that in my spare hard drives stash. In fact, I'll test it first, and then if it works I'll stick it in my spare hard drive stash. I expect it probably does, actually. Let's put that back in there so I don't leave it when I take this thing to the tip. So it is a shame about that front, really, because otherwise this isn't actually too bad a case. It's just, it would be useless for a retro build, because we can't put a floppy or anything in it, and apart from that it's not actually too bad a case, really. I hate all the plastickiness on the front and the no flop, you know, like I said, no 3.5-inch floppy drive or anything like this. Right, let's get this main board out and we'll get it on the bench and see if it's it's a runner. Let's see what it is. Oh, there's another one there. This, I think this has got a Celeron on it, but it should be able to take a Pentium 4, so again, it's something that might be worth playing with. Right, what have I missed? I've got all the screws there. Have I got all the screws? Yeah, there we go. Shove that to one side for a second. And there's our main board. Let me get you down a little bit so you can see that a little bit better. So we can zoom you in a touch. There we are. So what have we got here? We've actually got an Intel. This is an Intel board. A couple of PCIs. I presume that's AGP. I can never remember which is PCI Express and which is AGP actually, because you know, I'd stopped really doing a lot with computers after AGP when like PCI Express and all that lot came on. So I'm not as familiar with some of the newer slots. But let's see if this thing will power up. If we can at least. Oh right, oh cool. It does actually have parallel on it. We've got a parallel connector there. We've got IDE there. Have we got any serial on it? Yeah, we've got serial there. And interestingly, we actually have a floppy connector there. It's just never been populated. I wonder if we could actually get this board to be a useful board, because we've got our parallel and our serial on it. It's just not got floppy on it, but we do have I wonder if we was to put a floppy header on there and possibly downgrade the BIOS to an earlier BIOS, whether this thing might actually be a useful board. Let's see if it works. That's the first thing to do, is let's see if this board actually will do anything. Don't connect like that. And plug some power in. I can actually plug a keyboard in this time because let me get you zoomed out a little bit. Oops, wrong way. And up a touch, and then if we do stand a chance of getting something on the on there, you'll be able to see it. Obviously, we need to figure out how to power it on as well. Right, let me just disconnect these again. I think I see it. I think I see where the yeah, it's there, isn't it? Front panel. So shorting two of them should switch us on. Right, cool. Which way around should I have it so I can actually get to everything? That's the question. I'll put it like that. Let's see if we can get the VGA to reach round the front. Yeah. That's the VGA in. Where's my keyboard? We're getting a bit optimistic here, but we might strike lucky and get it to boot up to a BIOS screen. Right, we'll plug in. We've got LED come on. Let's see if we can get this thing to come on. I think it should be them too. No? There we are. Right, we're going to get anything. Ah, there we go. It's booting. Well, not booting, as you can tell. We've, well, let's see if we can get into a BIOS screen. Right, let's Control Delete. Let's see if we can get into a BIOS. Boot menu is F10. Right, let's try that again. F2. Oh, I wasn't quick enough, but we know it's F2 now to get into the BIOS. Oh, we missed. Let's try that again. There we go. I must have a slightly dodgy key on the keyboard. Right. So we've got, looks like we've got 2 gig of RAM. We've got a 3 gigahertz. Oh, we've got a Core 2 Duo in this. I thought this were like a Celeron or something like that, but we seem to have a Core 2 Duo CPU. Right, let's go to Advanced. Peripheral configuration, let's see what we've got. So yeah, so we've got serial port, parallel port, audio, legacy front panel audio, an onboard LAN, escape, drive configuration. So we've got serial ATA, so we've got 4 SATA connections, but we've also got a primary and a master ID hard drive there. What I can't see is any reference to floppy. No. So I think what we would have to do, if we did want to see if we could get this working with a floppy drive, is to change the BIOS to perhaps an earlier version of something. Basically the same board. There must be a board that they brought out that had that connector actually populated. And there's a pretty good chance if we find what BIOS that was running and we flash that to this board, we would be able to get floppy support to work on this board. So this is a board again to put away for a rainy day to have a play with in the future, because it has got potential to be quite a good like bridge PC board. We've got a few PCI on it, we've got audio on it, we've got video on it, we've got serial and parallel on it. We just have to, you know, break them out. So yeah, that is definitely a board that's worth doing future things with. So I'll switch that off now. And we'll get that disconnected and we'll get that in a static bag. Well, an anti-static bag. A static bag would be a silly thing to put it in, wouldn't it? I've just noticed my camera battery is just about to die, so what I will do is I'll put this away in a bag and I will swap my camera battery, so back in a sec. Right, okay, that's that one put away in a anti-static bag, and I've swapped my camera battery. So I suppose the last thing we need to do with this is we've got some nice USB connections on it, and we've got the labelled, you know, power LED, power switch, things like that are actually quite handy, and it's actually quite handy to have the switches as well, because they're useful just when you're testing a board, yours a remote switch and things like that. So what we'll do, we'll get the front off this and we'll pull all them bits out, and then again this can go for scrap. Let's have a look. Yeah, it's just really, oh wow, that's the easiest way of doing it, just broke the thing off. We've basically just got some plastic release tabs, and we should be able to get rid of that. You know what, I've got an idea here. Let's get that thing out there. That's like that media port from the front. A screw there. Just before I give up on this, let's have a look at something. That'll come out. It's got another screw, I think. Pull this side off. Oh, you can't, you've got to take the whole, yeah. Just bear with me a second, folks. I've got a sort of an idea after I just pulled that front off. Let's get that off. See, when you take the case off it, it doesn't start looking as bad. Now what I'm wondering, there's a screw here. There we go. We pull that out. It's been held by something. Oh, there's wiring going. There's like a little clip holding the wiring in. Just bear with me a second. There we go. Bend that out of the way. And pull that media. Again, this might actually be something that's useful to keep for something else. We have the little media thing from the front, but it is basically just USB there. We've got a standard internal USB connector there. We might actually be able to cut that down and use it in another system. So that might actually be worth keeping. But what I've just thought, I pulled all them bits off. This actually could be the basis for something interesting. And get rid of that, which is just the power switch. I think it should just clip off. Yeah. That's what I was saying, that in fact that's quite handy just to keep as it is for testing boards, because we've got power LED or a hard drive, whichever you want to use it for, and a power switch in the same thing, and we've got the cables. But what I just thought with that, that'll come off as well. I bet it will, you know. Oh yeah, there's a screw at the bottom there. And again, another useful thing to keep. I've got two USB and some audios all made out to cable, so again that will go in my cable box. But I'm just looking at this case now. I've got it stripped down like that. I'll put the metalwork back on it. This is a bit of a fancy, it's actually quite a heavy duty case. It's what I'm thinking, with that horrible front removed, there we are. If I put the sides back on it, there we go. Obviously it'll need a power supply and what have you, but with that horrible front removed, we've got a usable 3.5 inch floppy bay there. We've got two 5 1/4 inch bays there which are usable. I'm wondering, could I make perhaps like a hardwood front or something, I don't know, brushed aluminium, steel, hardwood, and cut out, you know, for the drives, and a 3.5 inch drive, and we've got a little hole there we could put a plate on and mount for a power switch. Now this was going, I was going to scrap this, but no. I can see potential in that to do something with it. Now I've got rid of all the plasticky dross off it. It's actually not too bad of a case to do something retro with. So that's quite a handy thing to have as well. But yeah, we can actually fit a 3.5 inch floppy drive in there now. So yeah, I will hold on to that for the moment. I do have a few, you know, cases that I can use for builds and stuff, but sometimes it is handy just to have you know, a case that you're not that mad about for perhaps a temporary build or something you want to fling together, and I don't want to use one of my really nice vintage cases. So I do have a few for. Hopefully you're still recording. It's just my I'll just have a. I think my little monitor's just died. I was having a few issues with it earlier on, but it's just turned itself off, and I've whittled the power connector which usually brings it back on, and it's not doing so. Oh, hang on, there we are. Come on, come back on. No, it had one with, there we go, hang on, we're going to get a picture again. Hopefully. Yay, it's working again. It's just a little monitor I have at the side of me here, so I can actually see what the camera's showing rather than having to keep glancing up at the viewfinder. Right, yeah, so like I said, I was planning on just scrapping that and taking it to e-waste, but no, I'm going to do something with that case. It is a little bit too good for that. The next one I'm going to bring out certainly isn't, because don't know why I've even kept this thing around. This was one of them, I need a computer case in a hurry, let's get something cheap on eBay, and then really regretted it because it is a horrible case. Ugh. And that's this thing. It's like a modern, I think it was like kind of like a rip-off of like one of the Cooler Master type cases, and it is the most cheap, nasty, horrible computer case you have ever come across. The metal is so thin. Look, I can literally just bend it with my fingers. Look, that's how cheap and nasty this case is. Look, I can just bend the whole case like that. Look, watch where the slots are there. This is just with my hand. That's how nasty this case is. So this, we're not saving this. This is going in the bin. But there are a few bits on here we can salvage off it before this this gets scrapped out. If I can, there it is. Right. Again, all important. We'll keep all the screws. The screws are worth keeping. this, look. That's how nasty this case was. This case was £40 odd. Right, well, there's actually some bits in it. We might have a few bits we can salvage from the inside of it. We've got a fan up there. It's not spinning at the moment. That could just because I've just crushed the case. Let's pop that out. Okay. Yeah, that does work okay. We've got a fan there we can put in the pile. Oh, we've got a sound card. That is actually, I think, a semi-pro sound card. We'll have to look into that. Yeah, developed in Germany. It's various. You've got your line ins on it and line outs on it. I'll have to have a look into that. That might actually be quite a nice sound card. I'll put that to one side for future perusing. What else have we got in here? We've got a CD-ROM, which I suppose is worth keeping. It's an is it an ID? Yeah, it's an ID. Is it an IDE one? No, it's a serial ATA one. But we'll pull that out. I've actually fitted it properly and from both sides, so I'll have to take the other side off. That can go ready for scrap. Get this out. I'd be tempted to try and take that motherboard tray out, but the metal's that thin, it's not even worth it. Even if it was a slightly better beat up case, I'd probably salvage that motherboard tray just for use as like on a test rig or something. But we've got a DVD writer there, so like I said, that can just go in the standard random spares box. I've also got a hard drive in here we can pull out. We'll see what that is. I don't think that'll be anything fancy, but again, that's serial ATA. Oh. This case was well spec'd for, you know, hard drives and things like that. It's just bloody awful quality. I've got a, what have we got there? Oh right, oh that might be quite handy actually. That's a 500 gig SATA hard drive. I was getting rather low on capacity in my Dell workstation actually, so that can go in there as a spare scratch drive for video editing. I'll probably do for that. I don't think there's that much more that's really worth saving from this thing. Possible exception of, you like the buttons and stuff like I was saying on the other cases, if it's not going to be too much hassle to get to them. That might be worth keeping. We've got another of those media little boxes. Now I do want to put one of the, something like this in the bridge PC, yeah, just so I've got access to SD cards, compact flash cards, things like that. It is handy for getting, you know, things off and on. But that's not a bad one. We've got a, I'm not sure what age it is. It's USB 2, so it's not one of the really early ones, but we've got you know, compact flash on there. We've We've got MMC cards, SD, mini SD, everything you want really. So that, I'll probably use that in the bridge PC build actually for down here. So that can go on the pile. And that I think is pretty much it. I would like to try and get all this, the cabling and stuff out of it, because that's probably the only thing that's useful that's left in this computer. But it's how much time is it going to actually take me to I think this front might just pull off if I tug hardly enough. Let's see. Oh, there we go. Yeah, and again, handy for the spares box, we've got, dear me, a couple of USBs and audios on a little board there. We've got the requisite connections on that side, audio, that's USB. So those are always handy too. Like I said, that can go in my spares box that have loads of that type of stuff in. And the next thing we want is we'll just pop out these right, there we go. In fact, that, I bet you that we could use in that other case if we build a nice front for it. We've got a nice chrome button completing a little surround and everything we could use on that. And it's even illuminated. That's quite cool. Right, that's, yeah. I'm going to stick that with that other case, because I'm getting ideas what I could possibly do with that other case, and that would be a really nice button for the front of it. What else have we got here? I mean, even like the reset button and the LED, they're held in with hot glue on the front there. I'm not bothered about this. Oh, they've come out. So we've got a power LED again, and a little power button, complete with the wiring. They're handy to have. So we can throw them to one side. The rest of this case, again, can just be scrapped, because that is just, it's so light as well. I mean, literally, if you look, one finger, and I'm not straining my finger there, one finger and I can hold it. So that is scrap. We've got another big pile of screws for the pile of screws there. And last but by no means least, now in one ways it's a bit of a shame to scrap this, in other ways it's in such a state. Story with this, we've got another Pentium 4 here, and believe it or not, I actually pulled this out of a skip. And when I pulled this out of a skip, it wasn't actually that old a computer. There was redoing some offices near me, and they put a skip outside and they were clearing an office out, and I was walking past, you know, end of the day type of thing, and this was literally just lying on top of the skip with a smashed monitor and keyboard and mouse and what have you. And I think they wanted to clear the office and they weren't minded what it was full of, you know, all office equipment, office furniture, stuff like that. So I picked it up and stuck it under my arm, brought it home, plugged it in, and it just worked. It had, I think it had Windows XP on it or something like that, and office related stuff. And what I did, I pulled the hard drive out on it, and I stuck a hard drive with Linux. I think I run Ubuntu on this. And I literally had it sat in my bedroom underneath a TV, and I just used it for watching DVDs and surfing the internet when I was in bed at night, and I must have used this for nearly 10 years. It never got serviced or anything, and then it just started getting slower and slower and slower and slower, and then it just stopped working. And I had plenty of other computers about, so I pulled it out, I pulled the hard drive out of it, put it in another system, and just started using that, and this just got stuck in a stuck in a junk pile, and it's been there ever since. We might even see if this thing's going to power up, but open it up, I'll show you what the main problem with it is, if I can get in it. Got two. There we go. Ugh, it is filthy. As you can see, it's never really been cleaned out, anything in there. But the main problem with it is, this is suffering from major capacitor plague, as in just about every single electrolytic on this board is bad. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, there's multiple bad capacitors on this board. I think we've got a date there for the CD-ROM drive, which should probably date the system roughly. It's 2005. So, I ran this system up till probably about 2015. I mustn't have had it for 10 years. Then I must have had it for about 6 or 7 years. But like I say, it got absolutely hammered, used and abused, this computer, and I don't even think I bothered really cleaning it out when I look at this. Look at this. That's the amount of crud that's built up on the front of the fan. So I don't even know if there's anything worth salvaging in this computer or not. Looks like I've already robbed the RAM out of it. I know I've taken the hard drive out of it because I'm actually still using that hard drive in my current media PC in my bedroom. But this one is so dirty. I don't even think I'm going to bother salvaging anything out of this one. I don't know. The power supply might be worth. Do you know what? It's got. I don't know if this has got provision for floppy drive on it or not. Doesn't look like it has. Let's see if we can get the. Oh, it does have. We actually do have a floppy header on the board down there. It also has ID and serial ATA. It is just absolutely filthy. Yeah. You know what, I haven't even got a. Where's the case gone now? So I didn't think there was any provision on the front for a 3.5 inch floppy drive. There it is. Although we might be able to, because we've got a hole there for a 3.5 inch floppy. We'll probably just have to cut the front of the case. Also, the headphone port on the front doesn't work because I had headphones plugged into it and walked off and ripped the connector off. But we've got enough bits in all that junk down there I'm not going to break this up just now. You have seen the state of this computer. Look at it. Every cap on the main board is fried. So one there, one there, one there, one there, a load underneath there where the CPU is, another one under there I can see, there's a load under the power supply there, all blown. But what do you guys think? It is a fairly early Pentium 4. It looks like it's possibly got provision for floppy on it. Do we strip it for parts, or do we see if we can get it up and running again and perhaps use it for retro gaming, or we could possibly even use it to put that hard drive in with all the emulation stuff in, if we could get it tied. It should be certainly powerful enough. Yeah, I was going to just tear that apart, but it's so disgusting. I don't know. I'm sort of kind of tempted to see if we can perhaps do something with that. Because again, it's a nice, really small form factor size. It's had stuff spilt on it. It's absolutely filthy. It's horrible. But that might actually have potential to live again. Yeah, I'm not going to tear that down for the moment. I know it's absolutely disgusting and everything, but I might actually see if I can do something with this. Yeah, I think I might. Because it does have, you know, we've got our serial, our parallel, PS2 keyboard and mouse, VGA on board, loads of USBs, LAN on board. So I said I was going to scrap that one, and I'm not going to. I said I was going to scrap that one, but get you over so you can see them. That one, but to be honest, I can see me doing something with that. You know, that nice little chrome illuminated power button there. We'll make a front out of, I don't know what yet. I'm going to have a think about what I could make a nice front for it from. We'll make something out of that. It's too good to scrap. But what we have got, we've got that motherboard, which I've put away over there at the moment. That Intel motherboard, which we can look at. That's definitely worth looking at. Actually, as a motherboard to do something with. And we've got all that lovely junk. So we've got loads of things like these USB connectors, audio connectors, all the bits on these boards, you know, connectors. There's capacitors on that board, which will be handy. Same with that old server board there, that's got capacitors and connectors on it, which are handy. We've got a load of fans and things like that. Yet more like USB ports and things like that we can salvage and reuse. And I have definitely replenished my stock of screws for PCs. Because we have also got all that lot. So we've got all that hardware there, some standoffs, some case kind of screws, board screws, drive screws, you name it. We've got a nice little selection there that can go in my pot, so I can replenish my pot of PC screws. So I think that was a fairly decent thing. We've managed to reduce all that big tower that you saw before down to that pile there, and a motherboard which I've already, like I said, I've bagged up. Well, the two motherboards which I've already bagged up and put in boxes. They're safe now. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there for now. Like I said, it wasn't meant to be a long video or anything, but I thought as I'm going to be stripping this stuff down, I might as well share it with you guys as well, because I know some of you like this stuff, some of you might be absolutely bored by it. Some of you, I mean, it could be something you can stick on in the background while you're doing other stuff, just watching me mess about with this junk. Anyway, so I'm going to leave it there for now. I hope you enjoyed this little video, so I will say thanks for watching and goodbye.